Hey team, it's Rex here. Sorry I haven't been too active in the chat room much. Been really busy with the little newborn baby and everything's going well there, but definitely took a lot of my time. But I wanted to throw out this little recap video on a couple trades that I did today with BBIG and SPRT. I was gonna kind of put together some pictures and graphs and stuff like that of what I was looking at, but I think this is just going to be easier, so I'll try to go over it as quickly as I can and show you the levels and key takeaways that I'm looking at for some of the plays that I'm watching on the first green day bounces and all-time breaks with high short interest in them. BBIG, I'll start with that one. When I was looking up BBIG a while ago, the short interest was showing that it was 50% plus on the float. So anything over 20 is a huge catalyst for potential short squeeze. Now, a lot of that short squeeze would have already happened and some of that taken away as far as the shares that were shorted on this run, but it is still in this nice uptrend into the all-time high breakout, which is at this blue line right here into 12. So there's some serious resistance up here, and then today showed that again. And probably the big lesson with this one is that you don't have to be perfect on your executions, but you definitely want to keep your risk tight until you know what's going on with the trade. I say that because I was trading it pre-market and it was feeling like it wanted to run, but it also had a pattern that if it broke, it was going to sell off into the open. And that's actually what ended up happening, was it sold off into the open and then pulled back. The other thing that I was wanting to mention in this recap is that it's always nice to see what levels you have pre-market and after hours, but it definitely is not ideal to look at that as the levels you want to be risking off of. You want to be using regular hours to find your zones where you're going to bounce, because a lot of times listed stocks like to gap up, but then they also like to fill those gaps and by pulling back, and that's where you get your gap and crap reversal happening off of, say, yesterday's close, yesterday's high, any previous high. And in this case, if I take you in, and this is an hourly chart, but if I take you into the 3-minute chart, I traded this yesterday. I'll bring up my chart here for this one. So yesterday, after hours, I traded it from right when it broke this wedge up to the highs, and so this was just right into the it started topping out, so I just got out of it. But then we came into pre-market today, and this pullback right into 10 had me convinced that we were probably going to end up squeezing these highs and run even before the open, and that would have actually probably given it a good catalyst to run right into the open instead of pull back. But what it did was, and you can see I traded a ton in here, but the big takeaway with these trades is anytime I'm trading pre-market, it's very small size and I'm quick to get in and out. If I don't feel comfortable with it, or it doesn't feel like it wants to move, it looks heavy for any reason, I just get out. So I was actually scalping little moves here. So I didn't have any losses on this side, but I did when I entered after the open. It looked like it had pulled back and then it started running, and then it just stuffed and I ended up getting out, but I only had 50 shares, so it was like a $50 loss. But again, that was well managed, because then once I caught the actual move, after it held 10, we formed a higher low, we reclaimed VWAP, and now we're starting to scare shorts that are in this, because now it's above VWAP, it's above some key levels. And if you notice this line right here, that's another area where obviously it played around with as far as consolidation goes up, resistance, then becomes support, breaks down, becomes resistance, resistance, breaks through, becomes support, and then we break down, becomes resistance again. We're over it, and now we're finally starting to become over VWAP and starting to hold. So once it started pulling back and holding, I started looking for, where am I going to enter on this? And basically for my entry on these is just right when it gets over the next level of consolidation that it was kind of sitting in. So, a 5-minute candle, next 5-minute candle to break previous high, then I'll take that. And so I entered in here, and I was risking down in these levels here. So it ended up being a pretty good trade. But the whole way up, it didn't really look like any selling going on, and then all of a sudden you get up into the top and it was just a whole bunch of red. And I was actually trading from my cell phone on this the whole morning, and I didn't see this move. Like visually I didn't see it on my charts because my phone was lagging and I couldn't see that, but for some reason the level 2 was, or the tape was coming through, and I was seeing prints down here at 1175, and it was just at 1250 almost. I'm going, what the hell's going on? And I just sold instantly, because that is a huge red flag when you get stuff that large. So I was happy with my decision just to get out of it, but again, it was just a decent move, not a huge trade, but it was $150 or something after taking this $50 loss. So that was the entry and exits on that. And again, what I watch for a lot of the times, and I'm going to keep this on watch because of this, look at the 1 hour and the uptrend that's kind of taking place on this. We start holding in this level here, off of 10, 9, anywhere in here, and we start picking up this trend line again, we might see another move, and this next one could be the explosion. But there is a lot of shares that they can dilute, so it's going to be, it's going to need massive volume to get this going, and I don't know if it's going to churn through whatever they're diluting into these pops. But if there's a reason for shorts to feel comfortable right now, it's the fact that there is the dilution, and they've got the capability of selling into these pops every time longs go into it. Then shorts get comfortable thinking that this thing's breaking down, and it definitely could. But right now the pattern's telling me that we're forming higher lows, and it's something to keep an eye on. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for this over the next 3 days. Maybe Friday we get that squeeze, and see how it goes from there. So that was BBIG, and so I'll switch over to SPRT. So SPRT is on the other side of the spectrum. It's a former runner, a really large former runner, and we've had now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this was the 7th day red, until this was green day obviously today, but it pulled back a lot. So when I pull up my Fibonacci levels, we are well oversold. So on these plays, I'm not expecting a bounce to go back to the highs. I'm looking for a 20% or more bounce out of them, in that range. But it's really hard to say because it's sold off so far. I don't know what it's going to do. But there was a key level, and I'll zoom in. What I'll do is I'll zoom out and show you where these levels came from. So I have a line here at 17 and a line down here at 1036, 1040, which was kind of where we played down here for the breakout and the squeeze. But this level here at 17 was interesting because I'll zoom out to a daily, and I'll also go out to a weekly. And if I take you Now this goes back a long ways, but a lot of times these visualizations and where we see areas of resistance and support play in and out on a chart will end up becoming an area that gets played on the way up or way down on the current time. So I had this line drawn out here. I've got one up here at 20, there's another level here at 26.50, which kind of correlates to the 25 area that we started topping out as well today. But this one was an interest to me where we were looking to kind of pull back to. I didn't think we were going to pull back to 12, 11. That was a long ways back. So I had this line on here anyways. But once I saw this yesterday, so we'll zoom back into, let's just go to an hourly chart. So here we've got our line at 17 again. So I didn't change the line. I didn't add it. It's just there from the zoomed out chart with the weekly. And you'll notice that where we started pulling back to quickly yesterday was actually where we started to bounce, was in this zone. So, and it was also an area of interest on the way up because that's where we topped out and then pulled back, and then we broke out, and it actually started holding that as well. If you zoom into a 3-minute chart, it was holding in there. So there was some areas that was playing around here on the way up, which tells me that that long-term support and resistance line is still in play today. So I had this on my chart for a bounce. I wasn't available to trade, and I haven't been available to trade much these past few days, and when I do, it's basically off my phone, so it's really kind of sketchy as to when I'm getting in. So I didn't catch any of this yesterday. I did get stuck in a little bit of a washout here that cost me, I think, $60, which is 0.5 of my R, so half of what I normally would risk, so that was fine. But I could see what was happening. They spiked it and then they just dumped it, so it just wasn't done yet. But then coming into today, it pushed up pre-market. I'll zoom in here. So here's that line again. We straight down, we start breaking that V-shaped recovery, get over VWAP. Now we're holding these areas, and then it pops into the open. This used to be something I was paying attention to and getting eager to get in, because about a month or so ago, this action was actually running and it would take off. But lately I've been noticing that these stocks want to, especially these bounce plays, they really want to confirm a higher low off of the previous day, wherever we're bottoming out. And so we also had red to green, green to red in that same area. And once it sold off this morning, I don't take it off my radar because it's gone red. It's still well on my radar. If it breaks the lows here and it continues on lower, all right, well then it's not on my radar right now for a bounce play. But the way that these pull back and then they hold their ground and bounce, and then it goes sideways for multiple hours, that to me tells me that it's not ready to, or it's ready to make a move in one direction, and right now I'm just needing to watch to see what it's going to do. And what we've been noticing with these plays is that they've been very, very choppy all day long through midday session into the close and then running. I think it was IRNT the other day, if I remember correctly, was one that went into the after hours and then ran. And this is no different. This was kind of making that wedge. It's not the cleanest, but it had this kind of consolidation going on that I was watching here. And actually, I guess you could take it even up to here. It's not far off of it. It's all in the same area. So I had this on the radar. And the other thing I like is when you've got a stock that's, I think Tim Bowen talks about this, where it wraps around VWAP, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and you're basically pulling in longs, pulling in shorts, pulling in longs, pulling in shorts until there's a battle one, and then you get an explosion after that usually. So I smacked my order here on my phone while I was actually driving. I had it all ready for just 100 shares at 2030, and my risk was down here at 1980. So it was all set. And on this one, on this order, what I did was I'm actually playing around a little bit more with stop limits, because I'm not able to be at the computer 24/7 just ready to, hit my buttons like I'm used to. So in this case, what I did was I entered my order and I put a trailing stop limit in place. The trailing stop is a trailing stop that's good for regular hours, and a trailing stop limit has two sets. Your stop, in this case, I just put it at 1980. My limit was 19. Now, you're going to say, holy shit, that's a long ways away. It's not going to fill me at 19, but I don't want to put it at 1980 stop with a 1970 limit, because the limit, if the price wicks through there, and the way this thing was moving, it could have easily done that, could have gone right through 1970 and continued lower, and I would never have been filled. So this is after hours, because there's no market orders after hours. So I set my limit at 19, somewhere wide, so that I can at least get out, worst case scenario. In this case, I didn't have to worry about that, but I did a trailing stop of 70 cents. And 70 cents was because all of these moves were no more than, at the time, roughly 70 cents, maybe a little bit less at times. Back here, it definitely was more than that. You're moving more than, it's just over $1. So hindsight, I wished I put it at $1 or maybe a little wider, so that I could have got the full move and been, sold out here, because it would have gone up to $25.50, pulled back, $24.50, and then I would have been out here. But in this case, I probably would have been stopped out anyways, because of the way that this went. And I had a 70 cent stop and on my trailing order. So as it follows, it took me out here when it pulled back, and then it continued higher. So that was kind of frustrating. But I was still happy to be able to catch this move. This is what I'm looking for reversals. And you know what? On the OTC side, first green day bounces, this shouldn't be any different. What you're looking for is a confirmation that the bottom is put in, sideways action, and then take your break over that sideways action. That is a trend reversal. Maybe it's not going to work all the time, but that's a trend reversal. So that's where you're going to take your entry on the flip side to get long. So I'll flip over to the chart here. And so you'll notice here that I've got a level at that 25.60. It's funny how these things work out, because if we go back on the chart, again, talking about our support and resistance levels, going into these trades, I've always got my lines, the key levels, the bigger picture levels marked out. And in this case, you can see that when we pulled back off of the highs up here at 60, where did we find a bottom? 25.50. That's a big, significant level, because that's the first pullback that made a bounce. And then we finding support here, it breaks below, becomes support again, we break below that, now we're starting to chop around it here, and then we bounce back up to it here. So it was a key level, obviously, playing in. Now if it gets over that tomorrow and holds any of these other channels, there might be something to play within these ranges, but to me that's a harder play. The first green day play, where you're getting in this explosion where shorts are covering, There's a trend reversal. We've got longs coming in. The volume came in. That's the play that we should be looking for because it's the easier one and the risk reward's better. So it's unfortunate some of us got chopped around in this midday stuff, and frankly I probably would have as well if I was sitting at my computer watching it, because I'm usually an eager beaver trying to get in. But I've been noticing that the midday runs either run and then fail and stuff. The better moves that give us more consistency on follow through are going into the close or after hours when we've got wider spreads, and then the price action can move a little easier. And I think that's what we saw today when it started moving into the after hours as well. So that's all I wanted to talk about. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Once I get back to some normality here with schedules, I'm back to work in a month. But it's been nice to be able to trade a little bit and see what it's like to do without having a full-time job to worry about at the same time, because it's definitely hard to balance life with family and 2 jobs. So hope you guys like this, and let me know if you have any questions. Keep your eye on BBIG, because I do still see this potentially holding up. It's on this uptrend, so let's see what it does. 12 is going to be a key level, but if we get above that, there could be some fireworks after that. We'll see. But I'll be playing each push as we go and selling into them. I'll probably be very leery to hold anything into the next day. If I do, it'll be like a 25% size of my position, just in case they throw an offering out and dilute it in the next morning or something. But for now, I'll just keep playing these plays here. You take these ones here. You can take the consolidation as they go, and this is what I missed yesterday, but that was definitely a nice clean play, and it had 3 hours of run time. So that's what we got to be looking for on these listed stocks. All right, guys. We will chat with you later.